Welcome to this deep dive into smart study for your HSC. Look, lots of you are probably using flashcards, right?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
But maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed or like the info just isn't sticking. It can feel pretty chaotic sometimes.
Definitely. That's a common feeling.
So our mission today is basically to give you, practical, easy to follow ways to make and use flashcards that actually work. Things that boost learning, help memory, and maybe dial down some of that year 12 stress.
Exactly. And it's based on solid ideas, educational psychology, student experiences, stuff that works. Because flashcards, when you use them right, they tap into some really powerful ways our brains learn.
Okay, so let's get into it. Where do we even start to make these flashcards really effective for us, especially thinking about the HSC and trying to stay calm?
Right. The first big principle, and it sounds simple, but it's crucial, is focus on one idea per card.
One idea. Okay.
Yeah, keep it concise. It's really tempting to cram related facts together, but that can trick you into thinking you understand it all when maybe you only know part of it.
Yeah, I get that. You see a few bullet points, think, yep, got it. But then trying to recall just one is suddenly hard.
Precisely. It avoids that sort of mental clutter, keeps things focused, which is good for stress levels too.
Makes sense. Can you give us an example? Like, what's a bad card versus a good, focused one?
Sure. So a less effective card might ask, like, describe transcription, location, and process. That's too much.
Okay.
A much better one would be super specific. What is the very first molecule produced during transcription? See? One direct question, one answer. Laser focus.
Got it. One idea, one card. Keep study targeted, less overwhelming. What's principle number 2?
Number 2 is connect with the context. Isolated facts. They're just really hard to remember.
Like a random name with no story attached.
Exactly. You need to know why a piece of info matters, how it fits into the bigger picture, how it connects to stuff you already know. That adds meaning, makes it stickier.
So it's not just about memorizing isolated bits. It's about seeing how they fit together.
Precisely. Don't just make cards in a vacuum. Ask yourself, why am I making this card? How does it help me understand the topic? But remember, flashcards are for quick recall practice.
Right, not summaries.
Yeah, don't turn them into mini essays. So a weaker example is just a vocab word, a stronger one. Put the word in a short sentence, showing how it's used in a concept you're learning. Maybe even add a note about what the teacher said, or use digital tools to add a quick audio reminder.
Okay, context makes it meaningful, but keep the card itself sharp for review. Got it. Principle 3 for effective, less stressful HSC flashcards.
Be precise. Your prompt, the question on the card, needs to be crystal clear, unambiguous, aiming for just one correct answer.
Why is that so important?
Well, ambiguity leads to confusion, right? And you can't accurately tell if you really know it. That wastes time and, frankly, can be frustrating.
Vague questions lead to vague answers. Vague understanding undermines your confidence, I guess.
Totally. A less effective card might add something broad, like discuss the effects of, which could go lots of ways. A better card asks about the same concept, but phrases it super specifically, pointing to one answer. Makes your self-testing reliable. Less uncertainty.
Precision for clarity builds confidence. Okay, now, you mentioned making our brains work harder, challenging ourselves.
Yes. Principle 4. Challenge yourself with higher order thinking. This taps into the testing effect.
The testing effect.
Yeah, the simple act of trying to retrieve information actually strengthens your memory of it, much more than just rereading.
Ah, okay.
So just recalling definitions is okay, but asking questions that make you analyze, apply, or evaluate. That's where the real learning happens. Think Bloom's taxonomy, moving beyond just remembering.
So actively grappling with it, not just passive review. How do we build that into our HSC flashcard?
Okay, instead of what is diffusion, yeah, pretty basic recall, try something like, explain how a temperature change would affect diffusion rate across the cell membrane and why.
Ah, okay. That forces you to apply the knowledge. Think critically, like in the actual HSC exam.
Exactly. Much more valuable.
Great example. What other practical techniques can we use?
Principle 5 gets into some cool visual stuff.
Yeah.
Utilize closed deletions and image or mind map occlusion.
Close. Occlusion. Sounds fancy.
Yeah, but it's simple, really. It's about connecting cards to your notes or diagrams by basically blurring out key bits.
Filling in the blanks.
Exactly. In text, images, diagrams, you actively recall the missing piece. And digital tools make creating these super quick.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Got a flowchart of, say, the nitrogen cycle. Use image occlusion to cover the label for nitrification. The card shows the diagram, you recall the word.
Okay.
Or, with closed deletion, maybe a sentence about a historical event has the key date blanked out. You fill it in. Active recall.
That sounds really engaging, especially for visual stuff. Which brings us to visual learners.
Principle 6. Visualize. Our visual cortex is huge, powerful. There's this thing called the pictorial superiority effect. We remember pictures way better than text alone. So use drawings, simple diagrams, mind maps, even color coding on your cards. It boosts memory and helps you see connections.
So ditch the text-heavy card if a picture works better.
Often, yes. For example, instead of writing out the stages of mitosis,
Yeah.
draw simple diagrams of each stage, maybe label one key thing, and the card prompts you to recall the stage name and what happens. Visual trigger.
Love it. Make it visual, make it stick. What's next for smarter flashcards?
Principle 7. Personalize. We remember things better if they connect to us, to our own lives.
How does that work for, say, chemistry?
Well, maybe not directly for everything, but try relating info to your experiences, examples you know, or even make up a quick mental story. It makes abstract stuff more meaningful.
So link it to something real or imagined that means something to you.
Yeah. Studying a literary technique, don't just define it. Jot down an example from a movie you love. That personal link is a powerful memory hook.
Clever. Making learning more relevant.
Okay, but what about stuff that's just hard to personalize,
Mm.
like lists? That's where Principle 8 comes in. Use mnemonics, memory tricks.
Like acronyms and stuff.
Exactly. Or silly phrases using the first letters of items in a list, especially for info that lacks inherent meaning. Think weird, funny, absurd. Those stick best.
But use sparingly, right? Not a replacement for understanding.
Absolutely. It's a tool for specific memorization tasks, not the main strategy. Most HSC content has underlying meaning you need to grasp.
Got an example.
Classic one for planets. My very educated mother just served us noodles. Mercury, Venus, Earth. Way easier than just the list.
Much more memorable. Okay, principle 9.
Be consistent the way you phrase your questions or prompts. Keep it consistent for similar types of information.
Why does that matter?
It helps your brain recognize the slot the information fits into. Reduces memory interference.
Interference.
Yeah, where slightly different phrasing for similar concepts trips you up. If you sometimes ask, define X, and other times, what does X mean, it can slow you down. Sticking to one format, like defined term, helps streamline recall.
Consistency for efficiency. Makes total sense for saving time during HSC revision. And the last principle, number 10.
Make it neat. Seriously. Tidy, organized cards often reflect clear understanding. Plus, they save time later because you probably need fewer repetitions to master them.
So effort up front pays off later. Messy card equals messy thinking.
Often, yeah. A crammed, illegible card, hard to review. A neat one, clear headings, logical flow, easier for your brain to process and retain. You can even refine them during reviews.
Okay. These 10 principles for making cards are brilliant. But just having good cards isn't the whole story for HSC success, is it? How do we actually use them well? Optimize the practice.
Great point. First, and this is vital, learn before you memorize.
Understand it first.
Yes. Flashcards reinforce knowledge. They don't replace initial learning. Go to class, read the text, make mind maps, then make flashcards to lock it in.
So they solidify understanding, not create it from scratch. Okay, next key for optimizing practice.
Make your own cards, primarily. I know it's tempting to download decks.
Yeah, saves time, right?
Maybe initially, but the act of creating the card, deciding what's important, phrasing the question, that's a powerful part of the learning process itself.
Right, you're processing it as you make it.
Exactly. Think of shared decks as maybe supplementary for ideas or filling gaps, but focus on your own.
Makes sense. Now, the big one for long-term memory, spaced repetition.
Yes, review using spaced repetition. This is probably the single most effective way to use flashcards long-term.
How does it work, basically?
The idea is to review info at increasing time intervals, crucially, just before you're about to forget it. Each successful recall pushes it further into the future, strengthening the memory. Lots of science behind it you can look up.
And a practical system for this is the Lightner system.
Exactly. The Lightner system is a great manual way to do it. You get a few boxes, maybe 3 to 5.
Okay.
Label them with review frequencies.
Right.
Like box 1 is daily, box 2 every few days, box 3 weekly, etc. All new cards start in box 1.
Right.
Get a card right. It moves to the next box. Less frequent review. Get it wrong. Doesn't matter which box it was in, it goes straight back to box 1. Daily review again.
So the tricky ones keep coming back more often. Simple but clever. We saw that Kensington Aldridge Academy example with 4 boxes. How might that look?
Yeah, so box 1, review daily. Get it right, moves to box 2. Review every 2 days. Right again. Box 3, every 4 days. Then box 4, maybe weekly or longer. But any mistake, boom, back to box 1.
That really targets your effort where it's needed. Super efficient for the sheer volume of HSC content.
Totally.
Okay, and the final tip for optimizing flashcard practice: keep things less stressful, more effective.
Vary your retrieval practice. Flashcards are amazing, but don't only use flashcards. Mix it up.
How so?
Integrate other active recall methods. We'll talk more about those, but think mind maps, the Feynman technique explaining stuff, simply asking yourself why, mixing up topics, interleaving.
Okay, so use flashcards as a core tool, but complement them with other ways to test yourself. Keeps things fresh, builds stronger understanding.
Exactly. Prepares you better for how questions might come at you in the HSC.
Right. So let's broaden out a bit. Active recall itself, we've mentioned it a lot. What exactly is it, and why is it so crucial for HSC learning?
Okay, active recall is basically pulling information out of your brain, actively retrieving it,
Right.
without looking at your notes.
Like trying to remember a formula during a maths problem.
Precisely. That effort of retrieval is what triggers the testing effect. It physically strengthens the neural pathways for that info, way better than just passively rereading.
Making your brain work for it. So, besides flashcards, how can we weave more active recall into everyday study for the HSC?
One great habit: write questions when you take notes.
Turn notes into a quiz immediately.
Yeah. As you're learning, jot down questions about the key points in the margin. The Cornell note-taking method is actually designed for this, with that side column. Instant self-testing material.
Love that. Built-in revision. What else?
Stop and summarize. Regularly. After reading a chapter section, pause. Try to summarize the main points out loud or quickly jot them down in your own words.
That forces you to process it actively.
Yeah, again, the Cornell method has that summary section at the bottom. Perfect for this.
Okay. What about more formal testing, like prepping for exams?
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Incorporate practice questions and past HSC papers.
Even if you get them wrong at first.
Especially then. The act of trying to retrieve the answer, even if you fail, primes your brain. Plus, it gets you used to the format, the pressure. If you run out of official papers, look online for similar courses.
Right. Practice makes progress. What about something maybe less obvious?
Try pre-testing before you revise a topic.
Testing before you study it. How does that help?
It sounds weird, I know.
Yeah.
But trying to answer questions about something before you review it actually seems to make your brain more receptive when you do study it. You notice the gaps.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
What about explaining things?
Huge one. Teach a friend. Or, your cat, the wall. Anyone.
Seriously, though. Seriously. Explaining a concept simply, so someone else gets it, forces you to organize your thoughts, clarify your understanding. If they add questions, even better, it exposes your weak spots.
When he's learning. Got it. And finally, how do we stop ourselves from just instantly Googling everything we can't remember to actually do the active recall?
Yeah, that's tough. Reduce your immediate reliance on Google. When you hit a blank, resist the urge to search instantly. Give your brain a minute or two. Try to recall it first.
Then check.
Then check. Use Google to verify, not as the first step. That little bit of struggle is where the memory strengthening happens.
Guess first, then verify. Good discipline. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. The age-old debate. Digital versus handwritten flashcards. What's the lowdown for HSC students?
Yeah, you see this debated online a lot, like on Reddit. Physical handwritten cards have their points.
Like what?
Easier on the eyes, maybe. No batteries needed. And some people feel the physical act of writing helps things sink in initially. More tactile encoding. Okay, makes sense. More mindful, maybe. But digital, what are the big wins there for HSC study?
Oh, digital cards have some serious power-ups.
Yeah.
Especially for efficient review. Spaced repetition algorithms, like an Anki, using things like FSRS.
FSRS.
It's just a smart algorithm. It calculates the perfect time for you to see each card again, based on how you answered it. Super efficient.
Takes the planning out of it.
Totally. Plus, easy storage for tons of cards, simple editing, you can embed images, audio, format maths equations.
Maths formatting, that's useful.
Yeah, MathJack support.
Yeah.
Language tools, easy searching, linking between cards, creating cards from spreadsheets, sharing decks, and the big one, reviewing anywhere on your phone.
Portability is huge during HSC.
Right. Plus tracking your progress, stats, backups.
Yeah.
Lots of advantages for managing a large volume of info under pressure.
So is one definitively better?
Not necessarily. It's really personal. A lot of students actually do both.
How does that work?
Maybe handwrite the cards first while you're initially learning, get that encoding benefit, then type them into Anki or whatever to use the smart scheduling for long-term review. Best of both worlds, perhaps.
Right. Tailor it to your own style and needs. Okay, let's tackle some common flashcard problems. First up, just memorizing facts, but not really knowing it long term. How do we fix that?
Good question. We touched on some of this. First, definitely make your own cards. Process it yourself.
Okay.
If you do use pre-made ones, maybe use them to learn initially, then recreate them in your own words. Make them yours.
Actively engage. What else?
Read the answers out loud. And, crucially, study them both ways. Cue to answer, but also answer back to cue.
Example.
Like, see the chemical symbol, say the name, but also see the name, write the symbol. Two-way street.
Build stronger links.
Yeah. And stick to one question or theme per card. Don't cram. Break complex ideas down across multiple cards.
We saw that UAE theory's example of bad card mixing things, good card focusing on one aspect.
Exactly. And maybe even try making physical cards smaller. Forces you to be concise.
Good tip. Okay, problem 2. Spending way too much time on making cards look amazing, like mini works of art, instead of learning.
Ah, yes, the aesthetics trap. Look, it's fine to want nice notes. It'd be motivating.
Well,
But if you're spending hours on fancy lettering and complex color codes instead of learning, especially with HSC time pressure, you need to reassess your priorities.
so functional clarity over time-consuming art projects. What's a good balance?
Keep it simple, but effective. Use words, maybe simple images or diagrams. Color coding by topic can be useful. Maybe include short mnemonics if they help. Keep it to one question per card. Use dot points, short sentences. Focus on clear information flow, not decoration.
Practical, clear, efficient. Got it. Final common problem. The feeling that flashcards just don't work for some subjects like maths or English.
Total myth. They work for everything. You just need to adapt how you use them.
Okay, so for maths, not just definitions.
Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
For maths, make cards with challenging practice questions on the front.
And on the back.
The step-by-step solution, or maybe key formulas or problem-solving strategies needed for that specific type of question. Mini practice drills.
Right. Reinforcing process. What about other subjects? English, history.
Okay, English. Maybe a theme or essay question on the front, key quotes or textual evidence on the back. Social science history. Syllabus dot point on the front, main arguments, evidence, key terms on the back.
Makes sense.
History legal, event or issue on front, causes, consequences, legislation cases on back. Sciences, topic or main idea, short explanation of the principle or process on the back. The key is adapting the content to suit the subject's demands. It won't always be simple definition recall.
Tailor the card to the subject and how you'll be assessed. Really important point for HSC. Okay, quick practical one. How often should you review?
Daily.
Spaced repetition suggests regular, strategic review. Daily review of your active cards, like Box 1 and Lightner, or what your app tells you, is often a good baseline.
And fitting it in. Yeah. Use that dead time. Yeah. Commute, waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
Whip out your phone if you're using digital cards. Quick sessions add up.
Some apps even nudge you, right?
Yeah. Notification reminders are great for staying on track during the busy HSC year.
Good tips. Now, that Kensington Aldridge Academy advice on being smart with flashcards, any extra gems there?
Yeah, they really hammered home consistent spaced repetition, that day 1, 2, 4, 8 schedule idea to push info into long-term memory.
Okay.
Also, taking that brief thinking pause before flipping the card. Give your brain a chance to retrieve first.
Don't just flip instantly.
Right. And crucially, don't discard cards just because you got them right once or twice. Keep them in the rotation, even if reviewed less often. Forgetting is real, especially with HSC volumes.
Keep reinforcing even the stuff you think you know. What else?
They stressed putting answers in your own words, giving examples, shows deeper understanding than just parroting a definition.
Active processing again.
Exactly. And finally, once you're a bit confident, try interleaving, mixing up decks from different subjects or topics in one review session.
I'll do that.
Forces your brain to switch contexts, like in the real exam. Strengthens recall under more varied conditions.
Okay, so active engagement, making connections, mixing things up. Wow, this has been incredibly useful. A real deep dive into making flashcards work for the HSC, hopefully taking some stress out of it. Can we just summarize the absolute key takeaways for everyone listening?
Sure. For creating cards, think intentional design. One idea, context, precision, challenge yourself, higher order thinking, use visuals, personalize, use mnemonics smartly, be consistent with phrasing, and keep them neat.
Right, and for using them.
Remember the power of active recall. Prioritize spaced repetition. lighten your system or apps. Cultivate smart review habits. Be consistent. Engage actively. Own words, examples, and mix up your practice, interleaving other methods.
So it's really about being deliberate, strategic, not just mindlessly flipping cards, using them actively to learn, build confidence, and yeah, manage that HSC stress. These feel like practical things you can actually do.
Absolutely. These aren't abstract theories. They're techniques you can implement today to make your study more effective and hopefully feel a bit more in control. You can turn flashcards into really powerful tools.
Fantastic. And maybe a final thought for everyone locking in for the HSC?
Yeah, I'd say experiment. Try these different methods, close deletion, image occlusion, different ways of phrasing questions. See what clicks for you for your learning style for each specific HSC subject.
Find your own best practice.
Exactly. Think about how you can use these techniques not just to cram for the HSC, but to genuinely deepen your understanding. These study skills, they'll serve you way beyond year 12. It's about learning how to learn.